thank God for that.
First of all, thank you for having me. This is an incredibly timely topic, and few are brave enough to dive into something that both directly impacts our lived lives in myriad ways and is kind of completely below the radar. What Section 230 does in a digital era is divorce the notion that the carrier of information, say the place where we're putting this podcast, is responsible for the content of that, which means that whatever crazy thing I'm about to say, that the person that's hosting the podcast isn't responsible for what I myself am saying.
And thank God for that.
And thank goodness for that, because but long story short, this is fundamentally important. Now, where things get much more complicated is that it is one thing to say, hey, look, we're just this neutral platform and anyone can say anything and we're going to equally have that information available. It's a very different thing than, say, when you are purposefully editorializing, curating, elevating, removing content. Now, we have an era where the platforms themselves are not a neutral form that's just equally treating all content, but are in the mix. So the algorithms themselves are elevating some content, diminishing the reach of others. And of course, the content that platforms love most is the one that drives engagement, which intersects with the ones that piss us off the most. And that leads to the elevation of propaganda, misinformation, disinformation, all the worst excesses, which is to say, what we have then is a privileging of the Charlie Kirks of the world, simply because what they're saying is so provocative. Solving that problem, which I've spent many years pondering and contemplating and coming up with ways to do that, is very fraught. Because obviously we would never want a federal government engaging in violations of free speech. There's a lot of speech out there that I find personally abhorrent, but living in a functional participatory democracy means heterodoxy, differences of opinion, and et cetera. And then all of that is then layered on top of hate speech and other speech that is disallowed. And Section 230 is the catalyst in which all of these different problems are currently legally framed out. And it's old. It's predicated on yesteryear's technological realities without addressing AI-generated content, algorithms, and a fundamental business model that is not necessarily elevating things equitably or even in the best interest of society as a whole.